Part 4 of the Ketchup Bandit. The next day, I got up, put the ketchup bag in the house because that wasn't coming to school with me, and headed off to class. And upon arrival, I realized they were doing car checks. Both the principal and the vice principal were stationed in front of the school, and in order for you to be allowed into the school, you had to get out of your car and let them search it for contraband. But I'd already stashed the evidence, so they didn't find anything and they let me in. Unfortunately, I did later get caught. You see, on the day of the initial prank, I had told a couple of girls who I thought I was friends with, evidently not, that I was going to plant these mini ketchup bombs and that they should, look before they sit. They ratted me out to the fucking principal. That alone wasn't enough to get me caught. What ended up being the final nail in my coffin is I had brought ketchup packets to school in a chip bag because I wanted to have ketchup with my hot dog at lunch that day. I was also already on thin ice because I had glitter bombed my IEP teacher. Anyways, at the end of first period, I'm pulled into the principal's office, and the principal, the vice principal, the truancy officer, and my IEP teacher are all standing there glaring at me, and I'm like, oh, what did I do? I mean, I know what I did, but what do you think I did? Fuck. They interrogated me for like 20-30 minutes in this tiny office, surrounded by people bigger than me, screaming at me, until it triggered an anxiety attack because my PTSD is linked to being trapped in a small space, and through tears, I told them whatever they wanted to hear just to get them to stop, and confessed. So they called my mother to inform her that I was the Ketchup Bandit, I was no longer allowed to walk at graduation, I was not going on the senior field trip, and I was not allowed at the senior after graduation party because it had taken their janitors 3 hours to clean up ketchup. To which my mother responded, wait a minute, hold on a minute, let me get this straight. You took a child who has severe anxiety and PTSD linked to small spaces and police, and stuck him in a small room surrounded by 3 adults and a policeman, and interrogated him for 30 minutes until he cried and confessed. Is that what I'm hearing here? She said that sounds like intimidation, abuse of power, and neglect. I think that could spell out a really nasty lawsuit for you. My principal sputtered in response and said, but we have to punish him somehow, and she said, no, by all means, punish him. But here's how the punishment is going to go. He is going to walk. He is going to go on the senior trip, and he is going to go to the after graduation party. All you're allowed to do in this situation is put my child in ISS and let him finish his art project for his final. Anything beyond that, and I will sue you. And so that's what happened. I got stuck in ISS to finish my art project. Now, to hear about the interactions I had with students due to this prank, go to part 5. Part 5 of the Ketchup Bandit story. This is just kind of how students reacted to finding out that I was the Ketchup Bandit. One girl threatened to kick my ass after school because she had sat down on one of the booby-trapped seats. The kids in ISS thought I was a fucking legend. They were like, that was you? That's fucking awesome. I was no longer under the illusion that the girls who ratted me out were my friends and promptly told them to go fuck themselves. And word traveled pretty fast around the school that I was the Ketchup Bandit, and students either loved me or hated me, but regardless, they were all talking about me. Some of them couldn't believe it was me because I was the quiet kid. Some of them were like, that makes sense, he's the quiet kid. I did in fact get to go on my senior trip. I went to the after graduation senior party and I did get to walk. Actually, fun fact, I showed up late for graduation rehearsal on the last day of school with McDonald's. A couple of seniors did come up to me at the after graduation party and asked me if I was actually the person who pulled the prank or if I was just taking credit for the clout, and I was like, no, it was me. And I showed them the ketchup receipts and they were like, it really do be the quiet ones, huh? This is the story of the first time I tried to donate blood and how horribly it went. So the high school I went to for junior year of high school had this thing where in the fall they would invite the Red Cross over and they would do a blood drive. And if you went to the blood drive, you got snacks and stuff, and you also got a pass to go to class late so that you could participate in the blood drive. And the blood drive happened to take place during one of my least favorite classes. So obviously I wanted part of it because I didn't want to go to that class. I'm also O positive. I'm one of the universal donors. So it's like, I feel like it's kind of my duty to donate, you know? So I go in, fill out the paperwork, they check my blood, they make sure that I'm not, like, nasty, and then they lead me over to a cot and lay me down. And then a nurse comes over, ties off my arm, and starts trying to find the vein in my elbow, with the ball squeezing and the tap-tap-tapping and the, whatnot. And after a few minutes, she finds it, marks it off with a marker, grabs the supplies, comes back over and goes, okay, I'm gonna count to 3, and then I'm gonna stick you. Ready? And I go, I guess. And she goes, 1, 2, 3, and misses. And I'm sat there going, oh, 'cause she missed! Her response was, it's not working. I think I missed. Hold on. Pulls it out, sticks me again, and misses again! And then I guess she thought 3rd time's a charm, so she tried 1 more time, and failed 1 more time! Finally, after 3 failed attempts, she calls over another nurse who goes, yeah, no, this isn't gonna work. You obviously can't find it in this arm. And then asks me, do you want to use the other arm? And I go, no, you've already butchered that one. I don't want to risk the other one. That's my right hand. So they go, okay, and clamp off the tube to prepare it to be taken out. So they leave to go get the supplies to take out the needle and wrap my arm. And while they're gone, some bitch who looks like she could be an exhibit from Jurassic Park comes over and starts fucking with the needle in my arm. Evidently, the nurse had not missed the vein. She'd gone through it. So when Granny decided to pull the needle out just ever so slightly, blood started flowing into the tube. But there was nowhere for it to go because it had been clamped shut. So my arm just started swelling up with blood. So Granny in all of her fossilized glory decides the best course of action is to grip both sides of the tube and pull to try and get the clamp off. And I'm getting squeamish, so I turn my head away because I don't want to watch, and then suddenly my arm starts to feel rather warm, and I hear, don't look. So obviously I look, only to discover that the tube sprung a leak and my arm is covered in my own blood. Eventually, the 2 nurses from before came back, reclamped the tube, took the needle out, and bandaged me and went, okay, how you feeling? Not great! Those motherfuckers gave me a juice box and sent me back to class. What? This happened in 5th grade, and as the prompt suggests, yes, I'm still pissed about it. So this happened, like, right after I had just moved to this new school. I had just lost all of my friends, I was alone and neurodivergent, and already labeled as the weird kid in school that nobody wanted to deal with. And it was a stressful time. I was dealing with a lot of big feelings that I didn't know how to handle. So my therapist at the time suggested that I keep a journal as a way to record my feelings and prevent acting out in class. But like, I didn't trust adults, let alone teachers, because I'd had some pretty subpar experiences. So understandably, I was apprehensive. Like, I didn't want my teachers snooping and being able to read my inner thoughts and shit, right? So not only did my mother, like, explain to the teachers, hey, you can't look in this journal, like, this is going to help with his behavior in class, but if you look at it, it's gonna fuck it up. My therapist also contacted the school and made my teachers swear they weren't gonna look in it. Spoiler, they did. But I was a paranoid preteen who didn't trust adults for shit, so I took precautions. So the plan my little preteen self came up with was, when I brought this journal to school, I made a show of every time I got upset writing in my journal. But I wrote bogus entries that they weren't true. It was literally nothing. I was making up stories. The first, like, 12 pages of that journal was bullshit that I made up on the spot. And then on the 13th page, after 12 fake entries, so you had to read a bit to get to this page, I wrote, "Get out of my fucking journal, you bitch." Meanwhile, I was keeping a completely separate notebook that they didn't know about, and actually using that to write in when I was upset. Well, lo and behold, 2 weeks after I start that fake fucking journal, my IEP teacher, Miss Quiet, comes up to me and asks me why I'm writing inappropriate words in my journal. And understandably, I was pissed. They had promised me they wouldn't pull this shit, and then went ahead and not only violated my privacy, but then I got in trouble because they violated my privacy? That's not even the worst fucking part, because them violating my privacy is shitty, but they could have apologized. They didn't do that. Instead, they fucking traumatized me. See, at this school, we had a couple of kids who had epilepsy, and instead of having somebody on staff who understood how to deal with an epileptic episode, they built a padded box the size of a porta potty to stick them in. And when I was screaming at my teachers about being upset that they had violated my privacy, instead of apologizing, they locked me in the padded box. The worst part is they knew I had PTSD from being locked in a fucking closet, so it triggered a panic attack. So yeah, Miss Quiet, if you ever see this, fuck you.